Pisces rising, we made it. So, I started this rising sign series 2 years ago. And originally, I had wanted to come out with a rising sign video for each sign every week. So, what should have took 12 weeks has actually taken 2 years, but that's neither here nor there. But Pisces rising. Oof, the intensity, the whimsy, the mysticism, the healing. You guys are felt. I want you to know that first and foremost, when you show up, you are felt. And arguably, there's something so magical about you. Now, I will say that when it comes to Pisces energy, it's very sensitive, intuitive, spiritual, healing. Those are obviously sort of the textbook keywords that you can associate with Pisces energy and therefore Pisces rising. But much like trying to catch a fish, it's hard to grasp that Pisces energy because it's super fluid. It's fluid. It is, like I said, it is felt. Now, interestingly enough, in real life, after reading so many natal charts and my experience with Pisces energy and specifically Pisces rising is that it is so magical, but I find that those who are Pisces rising, so it means that you have Pisces as your first house, I don't necessarily think you always see yourself the way that others see you. Now, that can be something that all signs experience, right? Depending on how you feel about yourself and whatnot. But Pisces rising in particular, the gravity of your presence, I don't think you always understand it, at least not in a logical way. Maybe you do emotionally, but just understanding how you show up and how you affect people may be something that you're not necessarily aware of all the time, but it's a beautiful thing. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be discussing the basics of Pisces rising energy. So if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer, and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So this video is all about Pisces rising, all right? And so this will conclude at least part one of my rising sign series. So if you're not a Pisces rising and you want to know about your particular rising sign, I'll leave the link to the entire playlist in the description box below so you can check out the basics of your rising sign. So first and foremost, speaking of basics, I'd like to cover the basics of what a rising sign is, especially if you're new to astrology or if you're just new to my videos. Okay, so your rising sign is the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon the moment that you were born. I like to think of it as your literal incarnation into this life. Okay, so the rising sign represents how you show up. Now, one important thing to keep in mind, you'll hear people say rising sign and you'll hear people say ascendant. So I want to clarify that real quick as well. So your rising sign is the sign of your first house. Okay, so you'll see that on the screen right now, the astrological wheel, that first house, the sign that occupies that first house, that is your rising sign. But your ascendant is the particular degree that was rising on the eastern horizon the moment that you were born. So, to put it in context, let's say you are a Pisces rising. Pisces is your rising sign, but your ascendant, which is abbreviated as AS or ASC in your natal chart, would be Pisces 12 degrees. That 12 degrees is literally your incarnation into this world. That was the exact point of the eastern horizon the moment that you took your first breath. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense because people use it interchangeably. They kind of mean the same thing, but don't. Okay. The other thing that I want to specify with this video is that this is general. If you want to know more about yourself as a Pisces rising, then you'll definitely want to book a natal chart reading with me, which is called the Blueprint. The first step to that would be to book a clarity call with me. The link is in the description box below. But this is just general Pisces rising energy. And in terms of the astrology that I use tropical astrology, right? And Hellenistic astrology, which means that I use whole sign houses. So within this series, a lot of people have said, wait, but I have Pisces there, but I also have Aries there. I use whole sign houses, which means that each house is occupied entirely by one zodiac sign, okay? Just in case you were wondering. But in any event, those are the basics. So now let's get into the specifics of Pisces rising. So let's begin with the main characteristics of Pisces rising, okay? This has a lot to do with your physical appearance because as a Pisces rising, Pisces occupies your first house. And the first house is the house of self. So when we talk about self, we're talking about our physical appearance, our body, our outlook, our opinions, how we express ourselves verbally and visually. So, as a Pisces rising, everyone who's a Pisces rising kind of has the same sort of physical characteristics. Now, don't come for me. Not everybody looks the same as a Pisces rising, but there are certain physical characteristics that a lot of Pisces risings share. So, when it comes to how you look, the best way I can describe it is maybe like fairy like, okay, very whimsical looking. Now, depending on how the rest of your natal chart is configured, that may not be the case. So, again, don't come for me, but sort of soft feminine features. Pisces rules the feet. And so typically people with Pisces rising have very dainty sort of feet, pretty feet. So if you're looking to start selling feet pics on the internet as a Pisces rising, maybe that might work for you. I'm just saying. But you get what I mean, right? The physical characteristics are very whimsical, very magical, very soft looking, okay? Now, sometimes they say that Pisces rising tends to have maybe like a thin build, but I don't necessarily always go by the textbook examples because bodies come in different shapes, but there is a magical, whimsical, soft element either to your physical appearance or to your aura. Now, that same sort of magical, whimsical sort of aura and energy definitely comes out perhaps in how you speak or how you present yourself. Now, your rising sign really talks about sort of the first impression that people would have of you when you show up. So, as a Pisces, you maybe express yourself very fluidly, or you speak softly, or you just have a way of tapping into the emotional energy of an interaction with someone. So maybe you're not necessarily the person who's spitting facts and who shows up very aggressively. Maybe you show up softer, but you're able to sort of tap into perhaps how the other person is feeling. Your demeanor or even how you speak speaks more to the emotional and soft side of things as opposed to hard, cold facts or very aggressive and very loud, right? Like maybe some of the fire signs, no shade. But you show up softly. And even if you are a man in your Pisces rising, it doesn't mean that you're very effeminate. It just means that you're very much in tune with your emotions. And here's the thing about Pisces rising, and I think that Pisces rising may not like too much. You may be able to tap into people's emotions to the point where you are feeling what they are feeling. They may be saying, oh, yes, I'm this, I'm that, and they're showing up confidently, but you can feel their insecurities. You can feel if they're lying. You can feel almost everything. And that's a beautiful thing in theory. In reality, it may get very annoying. It may be the fact that you're feeling things that are not yours. And it can be hard to separate what is yours from what is everyone else's. One of the things about Pisces energy is that it is boundless. It's not within the realms of boundaries. It can't be contained, right? Think of water in the ocean. Of course, you can, dip a cup into it and it's contained in that cup, but the vastness of the ocean and everything that is contained within it, you've got fish, you've got plankton, you've got whales, you've got ships, you've got submarines, all of that is contained in this boundless space. And so Pisces naturally feels that way. So within a room, you could feel the energy of that person over there who's lying, this person over here who's, just elated, right? It's a lot, very sensory as well. And so Pisces rising, one of the things that I will definitely tell you to do is set up energetic boundaries for yourself because energy, emotions coming from all over the place can very much be absorbed because that Pisces energy can also feel like a sponge. And so you're feeling the things that are not yours, and you need to be able to distinguish what's yours, what's not, so you can divest yourself of what isn't, okay? But that intuitiveness and that ability to tap into emotions of those around you can feel very healing. to some people. And that's why Pisces gets sort of the connotation of being the healer, because you can feel what many people can't. You can tap into what many people cannot see. The ocean is not just boundless in terms of looking out on the horizon, but the depth of it as well is a lot. And you're very much able to swim at those depths. That's why Pisces is very much, associated with mermaids, because y'all are mystical and you live at the bottom of the ocean, right? And that's how you come across as a Pisces rising. And it's very beautiful, often misunderstood, sensitive as well. You may find that you wear your sensitivities on your sleeve, and depending on what you do, depending on how you show up in the world, that can be difficult. In a world that can almost exclusively feel very expressive, loud, the loudest person in the room gets the attention, Pisces can feel off balance, off kilter, can feel too much, and can feel like their sensitivity is a disadvantage. And I promise you that it is not. It's just a matter of harnessing it and using it in the way that makes the most sense for you, that gives you your strength, that gives you your power. So never forget that. But in any event, as a Pisces rising, you are the essence of sensitivity, emotion, and mysticism as well. I find that in real life and in dealing with Pisces rising energy, a lot of Pisces risings are spiritually in tune. Now, when I say spiritual, I don't necessarily mean, you do rituals every day or whatever. It could be you're extremely religious. You could even be atheist, but there's a certain understanding that you have of how things work, how things are ordered, even if you don't believe in a higher power, right? You have this wisdom and this knowledge that you may not even know where you got it from. Pisces energy knows a lot of things without having the evidence to prove it. And it doesn't mean that it's not credible. It just means that it comes from someplace else, somewhere else, right? In a very mystical, magical, and spiritual sort of way. And that may be how you come across, even if you don't necessarily identify with that yourself. That's the thing about rising signs. It's how we show up. And depending on your sun and your moon combination, your rising sign could vary. It could really deviate from what you know of yourself, especially if your rising sign is an element that is not otherwise found in your natal chart. Like, let's say your natal chart is very fire and earth heavy, and the only water sign perhaps is your Pisces rising. You may not identify with that at all, especially if you're very fire heavy. You're very expressive. You could be loud. You could be very direct. Pisces is almost, as a water sign and as the ultimate water sign, Pisces is almost the opposite of that. It's very intuitive. It's not direct at all. It's something that you may have to get used to, right? But remember, your rising sign forms one of your big three, which is your sun, your moon, and your rising. And I like to think of those three as like a three-faceted diamond. They're different aspects of your personality, and together they form the foundation of your personality. And so if you're not familiar with that watery Pisces energy, it may feel foreign to you. But as a Pisces rising, if that's how you show up, that may be how people treat you. That may be how people interact with you. Okay, so hopefully this video will help you understand Pisces rising a little more. And speaking of understanding Pisces rising even more, one of the things that I feel like gets overlooked in astrology a lot is the fact that your rising sign can really shape how you make decisions. Because your rising sign is your first house, right? It's the sign of your first house. And your first house has to do with the self, right? Which is not just your physical appearance, but how you think. your opinions, how you express yourself verbally. Your rising sign can really give you insight into how you make decisions naturally, like how you're designed to make decisions. So if you want to know more about your rising sign, whether you're a Pisces rising or otherwise, then you'll want to download my free rising sign strategy guide. So it gives you the rundown for each rising sign, including your chart ruler, but it can give you insight into how you make decisions, how you make decisions based, decisions about love, money, relationships, career, based on how you are naturally designed. So if you want to download the free guide, you can either scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, or you can hit the link in the description box below. It's really invaluable. And again, when you know how you're designed to make decisions, that might be the clarity you need to actually make decisions that you need to and that you want to. So download the free guide right now. Oh yeah, the one other thing that I want to say about Pisces rising in terms of the sort of physical characteristics that many of you may share, it's these captivating and maybe even watery eyes. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, right? And with Pisces being the last sign, and with the knowledge and the wisdom that Pisces has accumulated, looking into a Pisces rising eyes, I'm sure you will see a lot more than you bargained for. And they could be very watery, very mystical. They may almost like sort of draw you in a way. And I found that in real life that is the case. I know quite a few Pisces rising and their eyes are always very captivating. So let me know if you are a Pisces rising. Do you know this about yourself? Have people told you this? And if you're not a Pisces rising and you're watching, have you noticed this when it comes to Pisces rising? I'd love to know. So comment below. Now, speaking of decisions and making them as a Pisces rising, let's talk about sort of how your life is set up as a Pisces rising. Now, I should have mentioned this before, and especially if you're new to astrology, in order to ascertain your rising sign, you need your exact birth time, or at least your precise birth time, because the rising sign changes about every 2 hours. So that could be the difference between being a Pisces rising and a Gemini rising or a Sagittarius rising. So knowing your precise birth time helps you ascertain your rising sign, okay? And when you know your rising sign, that's what sets up your entire natal chart. So Pisces becomes your first house, Aries becomes your second house, so on and so forth. And so when you know how your houses are set up, now you can understand sort of how your life is set up. So let's talk about the different areas of life as a Pisces rising. So first, let's talk about relationships, because that's typically the area that people want to know about first, right? So as a Pisces rising, well, as any rising sign, if you want to know about your relationships in your life, and by relationships, I mean your romantic relationships, you would look to your fifth house of romance, romantic partners. That's also the house of like dating. And then you would look to the seventh house of relationships. Those are your committed relationships, like your marriages and stuff. So as a Pisces rising, your fifth house of romance and romantic partners and dating is Cancer, your fellow water sign sister, right? So when it comes to romantic relationships, you like romance, you like softness, but more importantly, you probably like someone that feels like home, that feels familiar, someone that you can come home to, someone that can nurture your emotions. And that's super important as a Pisces rising because you are the ultimate emotional sign. So when you are dating, the decisions that you may want to make are, does this person feel like home? Does this person nurture my emotions and nurture who I am as a person? Do they leave space for me? Do they protect me emotionally? Those are the questions you'll want to ask when dating and when seeking out romantic partners. Now, interestingly enough, when it comes to your marriage and your committed partnerships, things are a little different because your seventh house is Virgo. Virgo is practical. So although when you are dating, you want emotional softness and romance and things, when it comes to your partner, you want someone who is of service to you, someone who's practical, someone who can organize all of your whimsy, right? Because you may be a free spirit. You may be someone who is very spiritual out there. You don't need evidence. You go with the flow because, again, those are characteristics of Pisces rising, especially how you present yourself. But with your seventh house of Virgo, to balance that out in a relationship that is, a mainstay in your life, like a spouse, right? You need someone who's grounded, someone who's practical, someone who can organize that whimsy. So, if you find that you've been dating and maybe you have someone who's really, protective of your feelings and very emblematic of that Cancer energy, when it comes to marriage, can they also organize your whimsy? Can they get you? Can they provide the structure in the relationship? That's a great way to balance, who you are and who you commit yourself to. Next, let's talk about money, because that's also something that most people want to know about. So, to ascertain your money life, you would look to your second house, which is your money, your personal finances, and then your eighth house, which is your shared finances and shared resources and debt also. Speaking of which, if you want to know about the money planets in your natal chart, I'm going to leave the link to my money planets video because there are 4 planets in your natal chart that can speak to your financial situation. If you want to know more about those, hit that video and that link is in the description box below. But anyway, when we talk about your money, your second house of money and finances and personal finances is Aries. So you are very direct. You can be aggressive if you want something and you want to make the money, you want to have this job, you want to have this income stream. Oh, you're direct about it, baby. Like you really want this thing and you go after it in a very direct sort of way, which could be a little contradictory to how you show up as a Pisces rising. Pisces is fluid and goes with the flow, but you're not like that with your money. With your money, you're very direct, you're aggressive, and it's kind of like a this is what I want, F everybody else kind of a thing. You can be that aggressive, but it also speaks to entrepreneurship. So you may find that entrepreneurship speaks to you, or maybe that's where life has been leading you. Yeah, that is because Aries is your second house. Now, keep in mind, again, this video is general. This information can change and can be refined based on the planets in your second house, right? Based on the aspects those planets in your second house are making to other planets in your natal chart. There are a whole bunch of factors that could refine this information. If you're interested in that, book a clarity call with me and we can discuss my natal chart reading, the blueprint. Link is in the description box below. But in any event, when it comes to your money, you play no games, you're very direct. There could also be a physical element to what you do to make money. Aries is the sign of the warrior, it's physical force. So maybe you do manual labor, or there is a part of how you make money that is manual. Okay, that's your money. Now, directly across from your second house is your eighth house of shared resources. And for that, that is Libra. Now, when it comes to the eighth house of shared resources, the sign of your eighth house could literally discuss your partner, like your spouse. So, as a Pisces rising, maybe you are married to a Libra sun or a Libra moon, right? Astrology can literally be that literal sometimes. But the qualities of your partner, someone who you share money with, could be very Libra. So it could be someone who is very cooperative, someone who is relationship oriented. Maybe they do something in a Libra like field. So maybe the person that you share finances with is a lawyer, is a judge, is a counselor of some sort, right? But either way, when it comes to shared resources, you need to approach it in a very Libra sort of way, meaning cooperative. This makes sense because shared resources, cooperation, they kind of go hand in hand, right? But when it comes to shared resources, if you are looking for funding, because this is the house of funding, this is the house of debt, just other people's money, you want to approach it in a very collaborative, cooperative sort of way. All right, so that's money. Now, let's move on to career and job as a Pisces rising. So, if you want to ascertain your job, meaning what you do 9 to 5 and on a daily basis, you would look to your sixth house of work and health. And if you want to ascertain your career, your overarching career, and maybe even your purpose, your expertise, or what you are known for, you would look to your 10th house of career and public life. So, as a Pisces rising, your sixth house of work and health is Leo. So this could mean that you are a leader, You perhaps work alone. This could also speak to that entrepreneurship sort of thing I was talking about. You hold leadership positions in your day to day life, or maybe you do Libra like things. Maybe you are an actor. Maybe you are someone who works in creative fields. Maybe whatever you have to do for work has to do with the heart. Maybe you are a heart surgeon, and maybe you're the best heart surgeon out there. Okay. It could really run the gamut with respect to what you do for work. But with Leo being your sixth house, you do take a leadership role, and it would make sense for you to do something that you are passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, I can almost guarantee you may not do a good job at it. But if you find that it lights you up, if it lights your fire, that could really speak to that Leo sixth house energy. Now, that's what you do on a daily basis. Now, your overarching career is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius and Pisces kind of go like this because they have the same chart ruler, which is Jupiter. And if you don't know your chart ruler, you don't know what I'm talking about, get that free rising sign strategy guide and it will explain it all in detail for you. Okay. But Sagittarius, whatever you do for work, you kind of do it big. You could be in the spiritual space. You could be a spiritual teacher. You could be a pastor, priest, something like that. Spiritual guru, although I hate using that word guru. It gets thrown around too loosely these days. But whatever you do it big. You might have an international quality about what you do because Sagittarius, if you look at the glyph for Sagittarius, it's that arrow. It points and its trajectory is wide. So you cast a wide net. You may be involved in publishing. You may be involved in higher education. Again, there could be a lot of travel, international travel. Maybe you are a travel influencer, which would make sense with that Leo sixth house. Leo speaks to influencer as well. So think about that as a Pisces rising, if it fits you, of course. But you could also have an international or a foreign component to what it is that you do for a career. Okay. So I want you to take a look at all of these areas of life as they pertain to Pisces rising. Take a look at your natal chart. Look to see where your second house and eighth house of money, what signs are there, what planets are there. Explore, right? This is just general, but this is sort of how you are designed as a Pisces rising. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, which is super important, is the part of you that you cannot see and that you're typically not conscious of. And this is your 12th house. The 12th house is the house of what they like to call self-undoing. It's the house of the subconscious. It's the who you are that doesn't see the light of day. And often the 12th house, it's running, the qualities of your 12th house are running in the background. And you may experience that subconscious programming in your reality, but it doesn't necessarily reconcile with your consciousness, right? So, of course, I've talked ad nauseum about Pisces rising and the magic and the emotion sensitivity, the intuition, and all the things. But your 12th house is Aquarius, and Aquarius is super mental. So, underneath the surface, you are forward thinking. And as Pisces energy likes to go with the flow and is in tune with everything, Aquarius energy is almost laser-like focus. Aquarius rules like your cornea in your eye, right? It sees the future and it processes it in a very logical sort of way. It's weird, it's quirky, it marches to the beat of its own drum, but it's thinking of a master plan. And that's the paradox when it comes to Pisces rising. You go with the flow. It reminds me of this YouTube video that I was watching yesterday, and it was a vlog from this young girl who decided to wake up at 3 a.m. and take a 12-hour road trip from Canada, from Ontario to Vermont. Like literally, she just like packed like a little book bag, her passport, and just got on the road. And she's like, I have no itinerary. I listened to a song at 7 p.m. and it reminded me of Vermont. I took a little nap and then I'm like, hey, let me go to Vermont. As soon as I was watching her video, I was like, this girl must have prominent Pisces placements because just get up and go. And obviously it's planned to a certain extent because it's a YouTube video, obviously, but no itinerary. She like booked the hotel on her way there. Very Pisces, right? But as a Pisces rising, underneath all of that is Aquarius, which does have a plan, right? Which does see the future, which does think about things intellectually, does process things intellectually. But the beauty of it is that you infuse that with your intuition, and that is powerful. That is affecting change from the inside out, but in a way that makes sense. So your shadow side is a lot more organized, is a lot more structured, is a lot more logical than maybe you realize. Because of course, that Aquarius energy is running underneath the surface. But again, that Pisces intuition with that Aquarius insight, intellectual insight, that makes for a very powerful Pisces. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video on Pisces rising. Now, this concludes my first rising sign series. There are definitely more to come where I will go much deeper into the qualities of each rising sign. But if you want, again, I put the playlist link in the description box below so you can watch all of my rising sign videos and stay tuned for what more is to come. And of course, if you haven't already, download my free rising sign strategy guide. It'll help you understand how you make decisions based on how you are designed. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments below if you're a Pisces rising, if this resonated for you, if you just want to talk about it, comment down below. All right, my loves, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.